members. You're hereby summoned to attend the monthly meeting of Business and Culture to be held hybrid, remotely via WebEx and physically in the chamber in Strabane. So if I take the roll call first, Alderman Cook.
Online.
Alderman Guy. Alderman Middleton.
Here, Stephen.
Councillor Barr. Councillor Duffy.
Shot.
Councillor Farrell.
Here.
Councillor Harkin. Councillor Hart.
Anshot.
Councillor Hutton.
Anshaw.
Councillor McDade.
Online.
Councillor McHugh.
Shot.
Councillor Mooney. Councillor O'Farrell.
Anshot.
And Councillor O'Neillis.
Anshaw.
Thank you, members.
Okay, folks, moving on, we're going to do the broadcasting statement. I would like to remind everyone physically present at this meeting or in attendance remotely that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. The broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. Due to the attendance at the meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and for the use and storage of these images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and use the chat facility to highlight the request to speak. And then you can find the full policy on the privacy notice on the council website. Stephen's just going to come on the back of this with some information.
Yeah, members, sorry, we've literally just been informed in the last 10 minutes that due to a global outage, apparently, we can't broadcast live to YouTube. So what we are doing, it doesn't affect the standing orders and WebEx is fine. It just means that anybody who was going to watch it on YouTube can't watch it live. But we will record the meeting and it will be uploaded tomorrow. So if anybody wishes to look back on it, they can. But it doesn't affect the issues of access and so on. But unfortunately, we can't. It was either carry on and do that or postpone the meeting. And I thought, on balance, talking to the chair and taking advice, so it was better to carry on with the meeting. But we will put the broadcast up tomorrow as soon as we can.
Everybody happy with that? Moving on, declaration of members' interest. Just looking through the agenda. If you have anything you want to raise now, please do so. If anything comes up during the meeting, then of course you can do it then as well. Moving on to chairperson's business. I have none for myself, but I have two members who have approached me, Grace and Rory, on the same issue of Echo. And I'll take them in the order that I received them. And that was Grace, followed by Rory. Right, Grace?
Alex. So just over a week ago now, we heard the devastating news that the Arts Council were cutting Echo's core funding of £112,000 after over 20 years. This is over 20 years, by the way, with no issues reported beforehand, and then suddenly cut. As you can imagine, this has sent shockwaves through the arts sector in the Northwest and beyond, and there's a genuine disbelief and fear about who is next. As a member of the Arts and Culture Co-Delivery Group, I attended an emergency meeting last week, and the emotion in the room was palpable, and we discussed the fragility of the sector and the effect that closing down Echo will have in the community. There is a perception that art is for the elite or for a certain group in the community, but art transcends everything we do. Art and creativity designed everything in this room, made the clothes we are wearing, designed the tools that we use to eat and cook, imagined cars that we drive and schools that we learn in. Art is everything and everywhere, and for Echo, art is life, it's community, it's friendship, it's employment, it's expression, it's education, it's nurture, and it's family. The closure of Echo Studios will result not only in the 3 redundancies of full-time staff, but the loss of a support network for Derry-based independent and freelance artists working in performing and visual arts. The support that Echo gives these artists is far-reaching, including studio space, administrative, fundraising and organisational support, artistic mentoring and professional development. In particular, the loss of support in kind that can be matching funding and leveraged funding for projects. Echo Echo provides a base for individual artists who work in our community, care and educational settings, creating accessibility to education and arts. The loss of programmes, workshops and festivals would be far-reaching if Echo Echo were to close, affecting the economy, tourism and how the Northwest is promoted within the arts sector. What message are we sending to young and aspiring artists in the Northwest and within this district if the arts sector remains fragile? Why would they decide to live here and work? I would encourage you all to go on to social media and follow Echo Echo's campaign to resist the cuts and save their organisation. And I just have a proposal here as well. I've sent it through. So I propose that we write to the Arts Council to express our shock and anger at the unceremonious cutting of funding to a second organisation here within a year, to highlight the frustration and fear that surrounds their appeal process, to express urgent concern in the widening of disparity and their apparent lack of real commitment to address this. We request that Council send an urgent invite to the Arts Council to present a Business and Culture Committee with the intention of addressing the concerns of councillors and the Arts and Culture Strategy Co-Delivery Group on the precarious situation of arts in the Northwest.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder for your proposal? Seconded by Aisling. We're giving a minute here, just let people read through. Okay, folks, we have a proposal on the floor, seconded by Aisling. Does anybody want to? Alderman Middleton has come on just before the proposal was put up. So we'll take you first, and then anybody want to come on the proposal then?
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in, and thank you to the members for bringing this forward for Chairperson's business. Just to
Right,
note,
2 seconds. She was coming on the back of Aisling's, sorry, on the back of Grace's. And then you were coming in then. What's that, sorry?
I'm not going to lose any sleep over it, so work away.
Sorry, this is not Chairperson's business. She's coming on under Grace's. Yeah, okay. Good.
just start again. Thank you, Chair, for letting me in. Thank you to the members for bringing this forward. Hopefully this is an issue we're all united upon in support of Echo Echo. It goes without saying the tremendous work that they do district-wide in the arts and the many, many benefits of the arts for many, many people. We fully support the motion calling for the Arts Council not only to meet with us but also to revisit their decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Rory?
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Grace, for making the proposal. We fully support it. We might have a slight amendment. So we totally reject and resist the cuts that are being levied at Echo Echo. I attended the co-delivery group along with a number of members, a number of council officers and people from right across the arts and culture sector last week. And the main issue is that Echo Echo, who are a valued and valuable and vital organisation in the arts sector in the city, got the absolutely devastating news that the £112,000 a year that they currently get or got from the Arts Council was being removed. That money was used to fund 3 full-time workers, and it helped fund the rent and rates on the amazing space that they have up on the walls. The decision letter that they got from the Arts Council actually said that they met the 4 criteria for funding, but they had concerns about artistic programming and the viability of the organisation. And Echo Echo reject that completely, and that should be robustly challenged. And it should be noted that in 32 previous funding applications, there was no mention whatsoever of any concerns about the viability of the organisation, any concerns about the artistic programming, and then just this comes out a bolt from the blue to say these aren't worthy of funding. So we think that's a shocking decision, a shameful decision that needs to be challenged robustly. And we have met the Arts Council on numerous occasions. We have met DFC on numerous occasions about the inequalities in arts funding across the North. The lion's share of arts funding across the North goes to organisations based in Belfast. And people here in the Northwest, people here in this council area are fighting for crumbs from the table. In this particular funding programme, last year there was £13.2 million allocated, well over 10 million went to organisations based in Belfast. Belfast City Council has 17% of the population but got 83% of the funding. That is wrong. It needs to be challenged. We have an executive that says that regional balance is going to be at the heart of everything it does in this mandate. And the Arts Council is funded by an executive department, Department for Communities. So we accept that we need to invite the Arts Council here to explain this decision. There needs to be an amendment to, and first of all, notify the Communities Minister about this ridiculous decision, and to invite members of DFC Cultural Unit to this committee as well, along with the Arts Council, because DFC fund the Arts Council. So DFC should make sure that that funding is distributed on a regionally balanced basis, because the reality is that most of it is going to Belfast, and then areas outside Belfast are just fighting for the crumbs of that funding. That isn't the way this should be. It should be done on a regionally balanced basis. We've been saying it for years. The Arts Council aren't listening, and it's about time they did. Thank you.
Be a seconder for your amendment. Thank you. Right, so we have an amendment on the floor. Just give it a second here. Let me get it up on the screen. Okay, folks, we have an amendment up there. I don't see any dissenting voices to it. Anybody else want to speak on it? Yeah. So, Councillor Hargan.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in, and thank you, Councillor Neelis, for bringing this motion today. At the meeting that a number of us attended during the week with the Echo staff and members of the Arts and Culture Co-Delivery Group, we agreed that we would collectively use the platform of the Council to make a very loud and robust case to the Arts Council that this disastrous and disgraceful decision should be reversed. And I do believe it is a vindictive attack on Echo. I think it's a vindictive attack on the attempt by our arts and culture sector to lobby the Arts Council and Stormont for equal funding for Derry in the Northwest. And it should be reversed, and we should use every means at our disposal to make that case. So I think it's right that we get the Arts Council in here so that we can hear their logic, but so that they can also hear our concerns. And I do think I agree with the amendment of Councillor Farrell. I think we have to also, given that the Communities Minister is the funder, and that we've also challenged the department over the unequal funding for arts organisations here in the district, that they should be here as well, and they should take responsibility for the Arts Council's decision. And look, I just want to say, look, I'm glad that Echo is leading the fight back in this, and they have been. It's good to see that they've got such great support, not only from arts and culture organisations in the district, but other trade unions. Equity, as people who will have seen, organised a rally yesterday morning that a number of us attended on the back of their conference here, and it was great to see the NUJ there. Unison was there, Unite was there, the Derry Trade Union Council was there. So there really is a sense that this isn't just an attack on the workers and artists at Echo. It's an attack on workers here in our district. So yeah, this is the wrong message for the Arts Council to send us, and I think it has to be resisted. And there is a broader campaign, obviously, to resist all the cuts. And look, you know, the Communities Minister is overseeing the budget right now, but like his equity members over this full weekend made clear, the funding has been cut for arts by almost 50% over the last decade. That doesn't justify any decision like this by the Arts Council, and it doesn't justify the unequal funding. But it just puts into context as well about, you know, there's a lot of talk about the appreciation of art and the role it plays in every aspect of our society, but it is on the chopping block constantly. And it's not just about art, it's about jobs. It's a huge employer. And that's why I think we have to do whatever we can using this platform to push against it. So fully support the motion that Councillor Neelis brought, and support the amendment as well.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you for the opportunity, Chair. Not a member of committee, but on behalf of myself and my party colleagues, Ulster Unionist party colleagues, art, the interpretation of art, is in the eyes and ears of the recipient. And I don't know how anyone can then come along and say, we don't like your artistic programme. I mean, there might be elements of the artistic programme that I don't appreciate and don't like, but that doesn't mean to say they give me the right to censor. And that's what this is, a censorship of the artistic programme of Echo. And listening to the proposer, one of the things that struck me was the catalytic benefit that the organisation actually brings. It's not the organisation itself, it's what they encourage and develop within those who work within that sector. The point is well made as to the disparity of funding. It's long been the case, but when it gets down to this stage here and begins to impact so deeply on the local community, it's absolutely despicable that this is being proposed to happen. And just on behalf of the Ulster Unions Group, we thank Grace for the proposal, and indeed Roy for the amendment, which makes sense, and look forward to having the censors in front of us to ask why, what's the issue here, because everything else seems to be in place. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. I think there's no dissent voices on the original proposal as well. So, well done, Chris. Thank you. Just a word from myself as well as chair. There's one thing I think we all agree on across the chamber, is the disparity in the funding from the Arts Council. It's been a long going issue, and it raises its head at every co-delivery group, what also I'm a member of. And as we know, within this committee as well, and larger monthly meetings. So yeah, it's good. We're all in agreement on that, and it must change. Everybody needs a fair crack at the whip when it comes to funding. Moving on then, there's no more.
Sorry, Chair, I sent you a wee message. No, I'll be short and sweet. It's just, we're at our last meeting of the Business and Culture Committee before the special meeting to elect new chairs and maybe new members. So I just wanted to extend a thanks to the chair, Councillor Alex Duffy, for all his patience and leadership this term, and to thank the council officers and staff who have been providing us with the comprehensive reports and assisting us in making our decisions going forward. So I just wanted to acknowledge that this was our last meeting and to thank everybody, really. Might see you all back here, you just don't know. But thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Aisling. Alderman Middleton.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in. Just on behalf of myself and the DP, we thank you for being a really fair and patient and kind chair. It's been a good year on business and culture. There's been mostly things we agree on, and we seem to be moving forward in a lot of things. And there's been good delivery under your leadership, so thank you for that. And thank you to all the staff team as well.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey.
Well, thank you. I'm Alderman Hussey. Alec, just sincerely, I'm not a member of committee, but as you know, I'm a regular attendee. And I thank you for your impartiality and for the ability to be able to contribute to the committee, that you've allowed that leeway going forward. It's very much appreciated. And wish you well as you move on to some other role after chairing this committee or whatever going forward. But I've appreciated I've appreciated that position, and you can make sure there's a nameplate in front of me the next time Alex in the chair. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, for your. I think you've been a very fair chair over the year, and I do wish you well, and I thank you for that. I haven't sent you a message on this, but I am going to ask if we can do it. I assume that this might have been on your agenda yourself, but it's the first opportunity as a council we've had to say something about the awful tragedy that happened in Buncrana at the weekend. And I do think it would be appropriate that members have an opportunity to comment on this. So with your, are you okay with that?
Surely.
Yeah, look, I mean, I have nothing prepared in this, but I know that everybody's been thinking about it. And what happened at Buncrana on Saturday was an absolute awful tragedy. 2 young boys, as we know, lost their lives swimming after a ball, Matt and Emmanuel. And I just would like, on my behalf, to send my condolences to their family and friends. I think that the outpouring of support and solidarity and grief that we've seen in Buncrana and right across the Northwest speak volumes about how they were viewed by their friends and their their participation in school, their participation in their communities, and I think that that's absolutely right. I mean, these are young boys and families who came here to try and make their lives better, and it is an absolute tragedy that they lost their lives at such an early age. I also want to thank the many emergency workers and volunteers that tried to help on the day. And one young boy obviously was able to swim to shore, thankfully. And I know that the staff at Letterkenny Hospital did everything that they could as well to try and save the other boy. But look, this is just one of those things that is awful. You can't prepare for it. People will be living with the grief for a long, long time. And I think all that we can do is make sure that those that are most impacted feel the love of community and neighbours and people here in Derry and the Northwest. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Bernie.
I was only just coming on to congratulate you on your year, and just that you weren't as good as the last fella, apparently.
That's true. That's true. Councillor Farrell.
So I had indicated just to thank you for your dedication and professionalism over the past year, and to extend thanks to your very, very capable Vice Chair, Councillor O'Farrell, and the entire officer team, IT team, everybody involved in making this, keeping this show on the road. But I think Councillor McDade has indicated in the chat box to address Sean's comments. Thank you.
Councillor McDade, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to come in off what Councillor Harkin was saying there and just associate myself and our team with what he has said. Just to obviously send our thoughts and prayers to Matt and Emmanuel's family and friends, and to the emergency services who were out, and the people who were out on the beach and on their boats that day as well, searching for the young fellas. I think it's very traumatic for everyone, and it's a really sad time. So I think it's right that we get an option to just to send our prayers and our thoughts to the family and the loved ones at the first opportunity. And I suppose just to thank the organisers, we did have a vigil yesterday down the quay where we laid flowers in the water just for Matt and Emmanuel and for anyone who has lost their lives at sea or in the river foil. So I just wanted to take an option to thank the organisers of that as well. But that was it really. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor McDade. Councillor Alderman Middleton.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in. Just on behalf of the DP, we do offer our really sincere and loving prayers to the families of Matt and Emmanuel, as well as the wider community, their school friends, their teachers, the rescue teams and the emergency workers. There will no doubt be some considerable trauma and very difficult and dark days ahead. Any support that we can give, of course, we will. We unite in grief with our neighbours, and we're very, very sorry to hear this happened.
Thank you. Councillor Hutton.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Sean, as well, for bringing this up today and giving us all an opportunity to express our sincere condolences to Matt and Emmanuel's family, to their school friends, to their teachers. There had been 2 principals on speaking through the week, and it was just heartbreaking to listen to how sterling these young men were and how much they were going to give to the community of Buncrana. Only their wee lives have been cut short. It's to extend our thanks as well to the emergency services, and also to thank the vigil that was held at St Mary's and the oratory as well. I think the community of Buncrana needed to come together on that occasion. They needed to be there to show each other that they will all stick together through this terrible, terrible grief. It's every mother's worst nightmare. Our colleague had brought it up in the Assembly yesterday and just chatted about the dangers of the open water once the good weather starts, and it's bank holiday weekends. The children just run to the water. They think it's a safe place, but it's just shocking how treacherous it can become over a minute or two. So on behalf of Sinn Féin, we want to send our sincere condolences as well to the families and the entire community of Buncrana. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair, and for the opportunity on behalf of Ulster Unionist Group, we endorse the remarks that have been made. Buncrana is a place where, when I was growing up during the summer, we visited every Sunday because my grandfather had a sister who lived in Buncrana, and you know, the attraction of the water during the summer is, you know, it's there, and we know about the issues of water safety and all of those things that are something that we are encouraging all to be aware of going forward. But in the immediacy, I suppose the other thing is the situation that developed in Buncrana brought back memories of a situation not that long ago within our own district council area, and I'm sure renewed trauma for those families as well. But sincere thoughts and prayers with the families, and indeed those impacted by the overall trauma, those who came to try and rescue the 2 young men. I'm particularly thoughtful on the RNLA personnel who I heard speaking on TV, and indeed the local parish priests who seem to have been deeply impacted by what they went through. So all of that community, and I'm sure the entire community of Buncrana, community that I know quite well, we extend our sincerest, best wishes and thoughts and prayers going forward, and hope that they can deal with the situation and come through the trauma that they're currently enduring. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I think that's everybody on that. There's nothing else more that I can add as chair of this committee, other than to offer my deepest condolences to the families of Matt and Emmanuel and their family, as well as their extended family and friends. And then the thoughts with the emergency services who had to deal with that, because they too will be dealing with a level of trauma with such a devastating accident. And may God have mercy on their soul. Thank you. Also, thank you everybody for your kind words. It's been my pleasure to chair this committee. Arts and culture is my background where I worked previously, and it's something I have a great interest in. And thank you all for your patience throughout the year as well. Yeah, so thank you. Thank you all very much. So moving on, matters arising from the previous meeting was held on Tuesday, the 8th of April. Anybody have anything to raise? Alderman Hussey?
Thanks for the opportunity, Chair. 71, I'd raised the issue of pending of car parks. And I know that in the reports that followed on during that meeting, the issue was addressed. It's just to raise one particular car park, and I'm not sure if it lies within the responsibility of business and culture or indeed sports, and that's the car park at Vaughan's Home, which is utilised by the teams, etc. There, I don't know the classification of that particular car park, but it has been brought to my attention that the parking lining has gone there, and is that being addressed? And who, if so, who would be addressing it? I have another issue after that, Chair.
It's not one that would fall under business and culture in terms of either off-street car parking. So I can liaise with our colleagues in health and communities and make sure that that issue is raised with them.
Thank you, Chair. The other point I had was the next one's BC 72, Guildhall Chamber sound issues. I'm sure members will agree that the sound issues in this chamber are absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So I wonder, should we be considering all future committee meetings being held in this chamber? Thank you, Chair.
Happy to inform the Chief Executive of your proposal.
Councillor Hargan?
Thank you, Chair. It's BC 69/25, and it's in reference to our local economic growth plan. And look, I know that there's been an opportunity for other members to discuss what's happened with BT, but I wanted to add my thoughts about it because we were all invited through the council last week to a meeting with BT management, and we found out very clearly that there was no consultation, that this was not a proposal, even though that's what they said to the council, that's what they told their workers, and that's what they put in the press. And I was deeply frustrated and angered, as I know everybody else was, at that discussion, because it felt absolutely pointless that we were having a meeting that was going to have very, very little impact. I did think it was shocking too that the BT management were there, said that they would go off and apologise to the workers for the way in which they described the opportunity to take up the jobs that are supposedly going to be offered to them in Belfast. But one thing I was thinking about this is that BT didn't just access public funding through Invest NI for developing their new hub. They have also been the beneficiaries of absolutely massive public sector contracts for many, many, many years. And clearly they feel there is no responsibility tied to those contracts for BT to have real consultations with local councils, with stakeholders, with anybody that might be impacted by the type of decision that they made to shut down their dairy facility, which I believe was an unnecessary decision. And this is why there should be social clauses with public sector contracts, and not just social clauses, but I know that we've also been talking about the need for social clauses to be built into some kind of regional legislation that protects jobs in the economy. And I know that that is being worked on, but I think that what BT has done has just highlighted that. So what I was going to ask, which is pretty straightforward, I would like to ask if we could write to the economy minister, who's not on the line of fire on this, just for a list of the public sector contracts that BT has received over the last decade. Because I would like a better understanding of just how much public money that they've been able to access through tendering. I do note that they were fined in 2020 £6.3 million by Ofcom for a tendering issue where there was a complaint put against BT. And £6.3 million is small, it's buttons to BT because they make profits of over 400 million a year. But I do think it would be useful for us as a council that wants to see social clauses built into contracts to have a better understanding of just how much. So if I could ask, Chair, that we, if members are agreeable to writing that request of the Economy Minister. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Have you got a seconder for your proposal? Seconded by Rory. Anybody want to come in on that? Everybody happy enough with that? Yeah, I'm sure we'll get that done. Yeah, go ahead.
Briefly, we did discuss this issue on Tuesday at Governance and Strategic Planning after the discussion with BT executives. So I think everybody was just really frustrated with the engagement. They had framed the conversation that these were proposals about job losses in dairy. They're not proposals, they're concrete, they're going to happen. So I think everybody's really frustrated. We're frustrated, the councillors and aldermen that attended it, but who's really frustrated are the individuals and families who are going to lose this job, their jobs and their livelihoods. People who have devoted their entire careers to working for BT, which has resulted in millions and millions of pounds for shareholders. They're just being left high and dry. So we support Councillor Harkin's proposal. We do need to understand how much BT have benefited from the public purse across the north. We do know that they get £9 million in 2017 to establish an innovation centre in Belfast. And the net result of that innovation centre in Belfast is dairy people are losing their jobs. So, that's not fair and that needs to be robustly challenged. But we do also need to understand about public contracts that they have. Whatever they get from Invest NI, they set up in Belfast. We do need to understand the recurrent contracts that they have with public sector organisations. So fully support Councillor Harkin's proposal.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sure we'll get that done. Anybody else with any items on that? No? Okay, moving on to the first item of open business is the crowd management and stewarding tender update. And Stephen's going to take us through that.
Thank you, Chair. So, members, the purpose of the report is to update you on the recent crowd management and stewarding tender exercise and to seek approval for next steps to secure a crowd management services. Members will be aware from previous reports that we had to do a new crowd management, stewarding and security services events tender exercise. And initially we put out a 3-year contract for 2025 to 2028. Unfortunately, we only received one submission and that submission failed the tender process on the basis that they're not accredited SIA approved contractor. So we had to subsequently do a smaller tender exercise where we were able to receive permission through audit to remove that criteria to get us through St. Patrick's Day and the various other events. We now need to go back out to the market for the full 3-year bigger tender exercise. And in looking through the sort of history of where we got to in this, some members will be aware of how that criteria for the company, as opposed to individuals, the company to be an accredited SIA approved contractor came about. And it came about from a tender exercise a number of years ago, I think it was 2017. And we agreed, or that we put through various recommendations through members, and that was one of the recommendations of an audit at that particular point in time. Subsequently, again, as most members will be aware, at that stage, prior to that, those recommendations, there was no dedicated events team in place. From 2015 on, we've built that team up, which includes 2 full-time event safety officers. And in our opinion, the belt and braces of having the company accredited is no longer a requirement that we feel is necessary because of the extra safety and the extra dedication of our own team. Therefore, what we'd like to do is go back out to the market, removing that particular criteria. Obviously, any stewards that we require to have SIA approval, which is various rules, still remains. Any steward that we would require to do traffic management, etc., or a security role must be SIA approved. But the accreditation from SIA for the company, we don't believe is necessarily a requirement. That will open up the market, hopefully facilitate more replies to a tender exercise, and allow us then to award a contract for 3 years for the security and tendering process, or the security and crowd management process. So what we're seeking to do is seek members your approval to note the contents of the report, but 2, to remove that criteria in order to make it a more level playing field for companies, particularly local companies, and to go back out to the market with a 3-year tender for crowd management and security.
Thank you for that, Stephen. So far, I have one indicated speaker, Councillor Hart.
Thanks, Chair. I'm happy to propose. As a single supplier was deemed unsuitable due to lack of SIA contractor accreditation, I think this is sensible, and the interim approach was essential in the provision of crowd management and stewarding at council-run events. I'm not sure what constitutes an SIA accreditation contractor and how it differs from, all their members, all their employees have to be accredited with SIA. So if 70 or 80% of their employees are accredited, does it really make much of a difference? So I think, as you say, the more people that we have tendering for these contracts, more competition, and it'll prove value for money for council. Thanks.
Happy just to clarify that a wee bit. So the differential is there's an accreditation for a company, which is like we would have ISO accreditation. So they apply to the Security Industry Authority. They go through various checks, and the company is accredited. Below that, then the individual members, if they do security work, must be accredited by SIA. So in our tender, what we would specify is where we specify that for a particular job. So if I take Halloween's the best one, best example I have, most of the people we would employ under this contract would be stewards. Therefore, they give out information, they direct various members of the public, etc. They don't have to be SIA accredited individually. The individual ones would have to be where you go to the higher level of security. So in any major event like that, there would be what's called a rapid response team who would go in if there's an issue with crowd management. They would all need to be SIA accredited. That condition remains. We would not deviate from that. Anybody who is providing that higher level service, that must individually be SIA accredited. To give you other examples, like I'm SIA accredited to look at the CCTV. So when I sit in the event control room, I must have that accreditation to look at the CCTV, as does anybody else sitting in that room. If I lose that accreditation, I can't sit in that control room because I'm not qualified. And that's as onerous as it gets. So the belt and braces was the company also being accredited. at that point in time, as I said in the outline, we didn't necessarily have the backup to be able to approve that. We didn't have a full-time events team. We now have a full-time events team with 2 dedicated, qualified health and safety people. I am much more comfortable that we can provide that level of assurance to members, but we still insist in the tender that any individuals we require at a higher level must have the SIA accreditation individually, and they must sign into that, and they must give us their photo ID. We do checks and all of that. Hope that makes.
Thank you. 100%. Thanks.
Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair. Declaration of interest is I am also SIA accredited through my own particular business, but I do have a concern in that contractors would expect, in fact, it's a requirement that the folk that they're bringing in under a contract are SIAA accredited. And I'm puzzling as to why the contractor, the company employing these people, would not seek SIA accreditation. Is there any indication why the contractor does not seek SIA accreditation?
There's not, no. I mean, the tender exercise doesn't allow for that sort of conversation, but all we know is we didn't get anybody, and it seems to be an issue. So to make sure for the public body we can have a wider tender process, I think this step is necessary. It doesn't reduce, as I say, our safety or our kind of oversight of the role. But so I don't know why, and it could be something they could work towards, or a successful company we might ask them to work towards. But I think at this stage it's a sensible measure to remove that as an requirement from tender.
Yeah, I can understand the immediacy, Chair, of the scenario, but I agree with Stephen that it is something that maybe the contractors that we do engage with should be encouraged to move towards SIA accreditation. I can't imagine the firms who will be covering the open, for example, not having SIA accreditation at contractor level.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Mooney.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in there. A point that occurred to me that raised by Alderman Hussey, but obviously it's been answered now by Stephen, and based on the facts outlined by Stephen and the comments read in the Chamber, we're content to support the recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I don't see anybody else indicating to speak on that. Proposed by Brian, seconded by Councillor Mooney. Moving on. Our next item is number 8, Labour Market Partnership Update, and that's Kevin's going to take us through that.
Thanks, Chair. Members, the purpose of this report is to update you on 3 things and to seek your endorsement actually on the 25, 26 and 26, 27 LNP action plans. So the first thing is around the update on terms of the appointment of the Northwest Taxi Proprietors Limited to deliver the Taxi Employment Academy. There's also information on progress in relation to the current action plan, which actually goes to the 30th of June, and then further information on the 2-year draft action plans that LNP had asked the councils to draft earlier in the year. And I do have one further update, just received hot off the press today, that we actually are now going to be in receipt of our letter of offer for the 25-26 action plan by the end of the week, which would represent a record in terms of when we receive these letters of offer. Generally in the past, sometimes we haven't received in the September or October of the financial year, so that's really good news. So as you'll be aware, councils deliver the Labour Market Partnership Action Plan on behalf of the Department for Communities, and it's delivered under the Employability NI framework. It's designed to improve local employability outcomes, basically to improve labour market conditions and through a collaborative joined-up approach to delivery of employability interventions. Members have previously been updated on the 24-25 action plan and budget. So just in terms of some housekeeping, in terms of some recent procurement decisions, the recommendation is that the Northwest Taxi Proprietors Limited are appointed to deliver a taxi academy for the LMP. They scored 78% and were within the budget for the programme. for the financial year. The Academy itself will deliver for 14 participants. As you know, the LMP delivers micro interventions at a small scale. It's designed then to basically test the need, and hopefully then that DFC or other partners can then scale these types of initiatives should they be successful. So yeah, this one will be for 14 participants, and I will also meet some of the issues around a gap in terms of provision of taxi driver services across the city and district. From 3.2 to 3.3, there's some updates on some procurements in terms of the Kickstart Your Career programme and the Customer Service Employment Academy. There were no submissions received, so we go back out and go back to the drawing board on those. We are also in the developing and delivering a Plant and Machinery Employment Academy, and that is currently being procured. Actually, it'll be assessed on Thursday. And then there's some progress in terms of or some update on the progress of the various initiatives happening under the various themes. You'll see within that who the service provider is, what the programme is, how many people have registered, and what the various targets and stuff are. That's a very it's a an edited down version. There's a lot more information is required from a reporting perspective, but it's easier to digest. So we had received a letter of offer to cover staff costs the 30th of June. So it's good news we're getting the full letter of offer now as previously updated. So in advance of preparation for this next financial year and the following financial year, DFC engaged with the 11 LMPs pretty much on the same basis as was before, assuming the same budget allocations and the same themes. So those themes, just to remind members, are around disability, skilled labour supply, economic inactivity and unemployment. So those are the types of areas that the interventions are designed to impact on. And the three priorities of the plans are one is around the delivery of more the administration. The second one is around the employability outcomes, and the third is around promotion, basically in support and delivery of existing employability or skills provision. So that's around joining up the dots between the existing providers and basically helping them promote what they do. So a full breakdown of all of that is included in Appendix 1, but Table 3 provides a summary of the themes and the types of initiatives that we could look at in this next financial year. So as you can imagine, I think it's 3 or 4 years now that the LMP's been established. So the team and the board members and the delivery agents have a fair bit of experience now on the types of initiatives that work and the types of initiatives where we, that are more challenging. So the focus of the plan is around trying to deliver on the areas that have worked previously or in new areas that may be coming up. Things like potentially construction, and just minded in the last conversation around security, we've delivered SIAs and that type of thing previously and through the LMP. Another area is around trying to focus this cohort of economically inactive and trying to get them into thinking about entrepreneurship and enterprise. Fits pretty well with the types of initiatives we deliver across the entire business team. So they're listed there, and there's obviously the draft action plans and stuff on there. So as you know, it's 100% funded, the LMP, and as I said, whilst the no budget approval letter was received yet, but it's due to be received now at the end of the week. So we'll be bringing that back to you in committee for the June committee for endorsement and approval. So the recommendation are to note the contents of the report, approve the appointment of the Northwest Taxi Proprietors Limited, and to endorse the 25-26 and 26-27 draft action plans, and then they seek formal approval then at a later date for the letter of offer and budgetary allocation once received.
Thank you for that, Kevin. First speaker is Councillor McHugh.
Thank you, Chair, and to Kevin as well for the very comprehensive report. I'm happy enough to endorse the recommendations within the report. I just have a couple of quick questions. See, regarding the Taxi Academy, 14 participants. How are those participants selected? And if there's, obviously, if demand outstrips the provision, how are they narrowed down and selected? And then regarding the Plant Machinery Academy, has that been awarded? No, not as yet. Is that common bearing in mind the potential of the A5 going ahead, where you could potentially have people coming out fully trained on specific type of heavy plant machinery that can then feed straight into the contractors that are involved with the A5, because I know there is a lack of supply for those particular type of workers. Gormagat, thank you, Kevin.
So in terms of the Taxi Academy, so built into all of these contracts, the onus is on the contractor to recruit the participants. First and foremost. Now, we do a lot of our own promotion ourselves, social media and that type of thing. So the contractor themselves will do the promotion, do the recruitment and the selection. And as you can imagine, given the provider there, they'll be very, very well versed in terms of people who are interested in becoming a driver and what they need to do. So they'll have a list. If you exceed, say, the 14, not necessarily. So there is a potential that, for example, 2 of the other academies haven't received any responses. So you have flexibility within the funding to, if you have an academy that demand outstrips supply, then we can repeat that again. So we can do that. So it'll be up to the contractor to do the recruitment, first and foremost. In terms of the plant and machinery, so we put that on as a kind of, as I said, and when we was presenting the paper, we talked about the nature of the LMP. It's supposed to pilot micro interventions into the labour market. And the reason we put that into the 24-25 action plan was because we as a council team have been starting to think around the challenges and issues around skills gaps in the construction industry that exist already. So it's a very tight labour market. We all know, we're hearing about it all the time. But primarily when we were starting to think around how we program for the construction efforts of, yes, the A5, but also things like you've got serious investment at the minute going into water infrastructure. You have investment in terms of on the Donegal side, you have major gaps because of the construction effort going on in terms of the Mica housing. You also have the 10Ts project, the Lifford to Letterkenny project there. Also the City Deal construction. So we've actually compiled a list of all of what we can see as the construction projects are going to be happening right across this region. We've put values on them. We've been working with the CITB, Construction Industry Training Board, Northern Ireland, in terms of trying to look at what are the types of skills that are needed per construction job and trying to map out, even like a best estimate of what the supply is coming through Department for Economy, Skills, Northwest Regional College, Southwest College, and others, and where the gaps are. So this is a kind of wee tiny first dip your toes into the water in terms of delivering and seeing if there's demand locally for people to take up to do this training, which we would like to, over the next number of months, produce a more definitive piece of paper, report on. We've got the UEPC in looking at some of the statistics to sort of see where the gaps are. So that's a long-winded answer of saying, yes, that's why we're doing it. And we recognise that there's great opportunity, obviously, for people to be able to work locally. But the big issue is going to be around making sure that we've got labour availability and the people trained to the appropriate level. So this is kind of like a wee tiny version of that.
Thank you for that, Kevin. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you for the opportunity, Chair. And like Councillor McHugh, it's on the same 2 areas. What's the remit of the Northwest Taxi Proprietors Limited? How far do they stretch? Because I'm mindful of taxi providers towards the southern part of our district council area and will they be able to be included in that overall scheme? You yourself said that, you know, they will be from within themselves looking for candidates. So, you know, how can those who are not part of the Northwest Taxi Proprietors Limited, how can they avail? The second point, I welcome 3.2.3, the Plant and Machinery Employment Academy. I think the issue that was brought to my attention, and indeed I brought it to the attention of the department, was we have so many folk, particularly in the rural area, who know how to do the plant and machinery stuff. But like the last time, the last subject we're dealing with, they haven't got the accreditation. You know, in the rural community, farmers' sons, etc., you know, they're using all of this equipment, but they haven't got the accreditation. So when it comes to major infrastructural developments that we know are going to come, whether some people are for them or against them, such as the A5, but you yourself, Kevin, you've mentioned that waft of other issues that will come along going forward. Hopefully one of them will be the remediation of Maboy and that type of major infrastructural project going forward. The skills are there, the accreditation isn't. And I do know that we have providers in the area who hopefully can provide this sort of accreditation for those who have the skills going forward. So it's extremely welcome, and I do thank officers for responding to that. I know that I was approached and other members in the chamber were approached on that particular subject. So it's a very, very welcome development. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. You all right with that? Yep.
So on the contract, they're contracted to recruit across Derry City and Strabane district. So it's within the contract. And I should say, look, some of the team through our skills people have attended a couple of meetings in relation to the A5 with McKinney's and stuff, you know, so we're aware of it and we've taken some actions away specifically around, look, the big issue, you know, skills obviously is the remit of the department. So we can act as a conduit in terms of articulating the need here to the department and seeing what interventions can be made. So we're working on that. And what I would like to do, and probably be after the summer, is take back a paper just outlining some of the initiatives and how we're trying to join it up, Chair. So that would be the plan.
Okay, thank you for that, Kevin. Alderman Middleton.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in. Thank you also, Kevin, for the detailed report. It's actually really positive, some of the opportunities that are going to be available to local people district-wide. On behalf of the DUP, we welcome the report and we are happy to support and endorse. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Middleton. That's it on that, folks. Moving on. Our number 9 today is the Halloween 2025 update. And Stephen's going to take us through that.
Thank you, Chair, and members. Happy to take you through the report, but obviously...
Sorry, Chair, I'd actually come in that last one. Sorry, Stephen.
You can't see the chat.
Yes, Alderman Guy, just last minute there. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. No, thank you, Chair. I put it on along with my apologies there, so you probably didn't pick up on it. Just a question on the taxi rules. Now, just to elaborate more than what Councillor McHugh was saying there about the 14 participants. Now, I would take it that they're going to apply for their Access NI straight away, because there's not much point in putting 14 participants through a course if they're denied their Access NI at the end of it. Now, I know that they've talked about a wraparound service and all that. I would pretty much on the basis that now taxi firms, a lot of them do provide cars and group insurance to drivers, which is probably a way of actually enticing more into that line of work. But then there's other costs, and I'm wondering, is there going to be help given to the actual drivers whenever they say if they do the course and all, the wraparound service and all, but are they going to, because you're basically looking at your taxi badge is £55. It takes anything from 2 months to 5 months to apply for. Your CPC which has to be done for to obtain your badge over 5 classes, and that would cost £240 over 5 classes. You have your PSV, which is £148, but if it, again, the taxi firm would probably look after that. But you have to look after your meter test, a sign, and also a doctor's certificate, which could cost anything from £80 to £100. Are these all factored in to that wraparound service? Or because I do think that it would be pointless putting 14 participants through this at the end if some of them were going to be denied their access NI. So I think that's the most important thing, and hopefully that Northwest taxi proprietors have thought about this going forward and plan to do it from the start, rather than wait to the end of the actual course and then apply. Thanks, Chair, and thanks for the detailed report. Kevin.
Just in terms of that, so as I was saying when I was presenting the report, the idea of the LMP is also to try to work across the kind of wider sort of labour market support infrastructure, and on the LMP actually represented are the Jobs and Benefits Office. So as part of any support that any client gets through this, they obviously get that one-to-one support through the JBO support coaches. So what applicants, depending on their current employment status, they can get access to the Advisory Discretionary Fund. That's up to £1,500 worth of 100% grant aid available to them over a 12-month period, which can be used to subvent those types of costs. So what our job is to do in the LMP is to try to bring all these different things together and complement them, not duplicate them, or not, so that's what we aim to do. So actually, in the years that I've been involved in it, I think it's one of the most joined up initiatives that we deliver, because you bring in all of those different professionals together to give the person who's at the centre of that a really good wraparound support.
Thanks for that, Kevin. No, I agree. If there's going to be that there money available, then it definitely would help in setting them up. Even with, if they wanted to go down the route of having their own car as well, rather, because obviously costs can be group insurance and sometimes can work out higher than the actual individual insurance. But no, that's good to know. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Alderman Guy. Moving on, folks. Apologies for that, Alderman Guy. I just did then see your wee message above. Moving on, Halloween 2025 update, and Stephen's going to take us through that.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of the report, members, is to update you in the Halloween plans for 2025 and also seek your approval in relation to a financial increase in the SLA with Carnival Initiative. Happy to take you through the report, but clearly any difficult questions or more artistic questions, I'll defer to Jacqueline in terms of the programme, because she's much better informed than me in terms of that. But members, we run through the background of the 2025 outline programme as it stands at the minute. And as you see, it's quite a comprehensive programme has already started to be developed. So the overall programme will run from the 24th to the 31st of October. We'll have the Waking of the Wall City Trail, which will take place on the 28th to the 30th. Halloween parade and fireworks, obviously, on the 31st in both Derry and Strabane. Within that, you'll see the various zones that we started to scope out in Shipquay Street, the Diamond, Pump Street, London Street, and Bishop Street. Outside of the zones, there'll be additional programme in the Craft Village, Pump Street, St Colum's Cathedral. Partly due to the public realm works, will be slightly curtailed on the right-hand side of the walled city, but we'll manage through that for this year. But hopefully in future years, we'll have a much nicer event space to work with following that in 2026. Members will also be aware that last year, largely in response to the sector, we had a 2-year programme for the large-scale animation contracts, so we're going into our 2nd year for that. So those don't have to be tendered again this year, but there will be some smaller scale animation that will be tendered as per the usual council processes. In addition, members will be aware of our SLA with the Carnival Initiative and to the value of 36,000. Last year, we were successful as business and culture team through the rates process to get an uplift in our Halloween budget. So we would like to put an additional 20,000 into that SLA. That's partly to cope with that. Value hasn't changed in a number of years. The Carnival Initiative doing an awful lot more work for us now right across the district. And in recognition of that and the financial pressures are under, we think it's prudent to do it at this stage. In terms of Strabane, we have an exciting programme for the 31st, which include street theatre, treat trail, trick-or-treat trails, food stalls, etc. We're also aware of the ongoing public realm works, and we're trying to minimise the disruption of that. We'll work obviously with our own team and with our bids team to work through that and work through the businesses and the members of the public. But there will be a stunning firework display on the night in the town. Key issues that I wish to highlight. This year's theme will continue to be the awakening, and we have applied to, and this links very much with Tourism Ireland and Tourism Northern Ireland in terms of their promotional exercise. Tourism Ireland are obviously leading the campaign for Ireland as the home of Halloween, and we continue to push at the largest event for Halloween in Europe is in Derry, and the Northwest region is very much the capital of the home of Halloween. And this will be a theme that we'll carry right through this year's event. We obviously, as a details right through there in terms of the plan to use Shipquay Street, the Cathedral Quarter initiative, we are working very closely with them. They're a group of businesses that have amalgamated themselves together and gives us a focus in that area as well. So we're working very closely with them to maximise the opportunities. So financially, we have applied to the International Events Fund. We obviously don't have a response to that yet. Oh, sorry, we've got, that's why Jacqueline's here. We have received the funding for that of 100,000. And so we have the budgets confirmed. And you will see the additional income that we will generate through trading activities, the increase in the members' agreed budget, and further marketing of the event as well to continue to promote the largest Halloween festival in Europe. You will see from the breakdown the increased costs that we're facing and where that additional funding has gone. Local communities and arts sector have also been the forefront of our planning because it very much has to be a community-led event. It always was, always will be. We facilitate that and we're the custodians of that. And to that end, we're also pushing very hard within our own staff to make sure our staff get dressed up and everybody gets much more involved in it as a community event from the origins of it rather than just becoming a large-scale corporate event, which it has obviously a risk of having. But our staff are very focused on making sure that we're always close to our roots and where Halloween started. So what we're seeking today is members' approval to note the contents of the report and obviously approve the additional financial arrangements, in particular the increase in the SLA for the Northwest Carnival Initiative. As I said, I'm happy to take any questions, but clearly any hard ones I'll defer to Jacqueline. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Hutton.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Stephen and the team for that very comprehensive report. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I can't believe we're talking about Halloween again. So you are probably straight under the year after the minute it finishes. But I think we can all agree as well that this is our flagship event here in the city, and it's really, really important that sustains, and the messaging around being the largest event on the island of Ireland needs to be a focus for us as a council as well. And I think the Northwest Carnival Initiative, they play a very, very central role in relation to the parade, but all the other stuff that goes on outside of that, the groups that they work with in the lead up to the event. So I'm happy to propose that we agree the 20,000 increase in their budget this year. I think as well, you know, we can't avoid all these increased operational costs. It's the environment that we're living in at the minute, so it will need constantly reviewed and making sure that we're getting best value for money. Very, very excited about the Cathedral Quarter plans. The market that happened there a few months ago, the town loved it. It was very well attended, and I just hope that this gives them more opportunity to grow bigger and better. And then I just wanted to touch on the 40th anniversary stuff, and I know that's not the 2026, but Is there any opportunity during the 2025 celebrations, that 5-day window, where we can gauge from the general public stuff that they might want to see during the 40th anniversary, stuff that they think doesn't work? Now, I know we constantly monitor, we constantly evaluate, and that's something the council's really good at. But I think the 40th anniversary is the big fish. We need to be out there showing everybody what we can do. So I do think that there might be opportunity during the 2025 celebrations to gauge that sort of, I'm not saying survey everybody, but no, more like the maritime spot checking and just seeing if there's stuff there. But no, happy to propose that increase in the budget, Stephen, and thanks again for the report, and very best of luck with all the plans. Thank you.
Thank you, Aisling. Alderman Hussey.
Thanks again for the opportunity, Chair, and I welcome what Stephen has said about facilitating communities and not allowing it to develop into a totally corporate event. Members will notice the dates that are involved there, and it starts on the 24th, but I noticed the dates in the report all refer towards the 31st, and I see Jacqueline smiling there because she knows exactly where I'm going. I'm presuming that the Hula in the Hill Churchtown, which is on the 24th, and the Apple Fair, which has now been moved to the 25th, are the rationale for the starting dates that are there prior to the build-up to the actual focus on All Hallows Eve, whatever the correct title is of it, rather than Halloween. So I'm presuming that that is the case. That being the case, the events that are there are towards the end of the week. Does that mean that there will be staff available and indeed additional funds available to assist the start of the programme on the 25th and 24th of October? So can we expect an influx of staff who are going to come in and facilitate the community as they develop that particular element of the overall period of Halloween events? Thank you.
I'm happy to answer some of that. And Jacqueline, if I miss anything, please come in. Obviously, the programme will highlight, as we always do, any community-led events. And in relation to staff being available, we have quite a considerable site takedown. It doesn't just start on the day and finish on the day. So I doubt very much that we would have an influx of staff into those regions. We obviously, as we always do, help, assist, guide in any community event, not just these ones. So wherever we're providing funding for any event, we don't just leave groups to their own devices. We want to make sure and we maximise. I understand why you've asked the question, but I could not commit to an influx of staff that would be available at just prior to our largest event of the year.
No harm in asking, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. Next we have Councillor Hargan.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Stephen, for the comprehensive report. And it does look like a very exciting Halloween 2025 programme. And I know there's a lot of work that goes into this, so I'm looking forward to it. And I second the proposal to increase the SLA amount with the Northwest Carnival Initiative by £20,000. I mean, I think that they do unbelievable work. They have done it on a shoestring budget, and I genuinely don't know how they do it, because the number of organisations that they involve in Derry and beyond in Halloween, and making it that community festival and keeping that community festival part of it absolutely central is it's fantastic, and it's very, very important. So it's absolutely right that we make sure that we're doing what we can to sustain them and make sure that they are able to continue to do their work. And for me, look, the community part of Halloween is the most important, and that's why funding, as many local organisations that are in the arts and others to be able to participate in it, to be able to do their work, but also make it the brilliant community event that it is absolutely key. So when Stephen talked about encouraging council staff to participate in the festival, I completely endorse that, and maybe we can have a motion closer to the date encouraging councillors and aldermen also to fully participate in that. And I'm certainly up for that, especially if there's a motion that goes through the council. But look, I do think that this is key. I think if Halloween continues to be embraced by the people of Derry, it will be a successful event, and that will bring other benefits to others. But the key thing is that this was started as a community festival. We have to maintain that, and we have to work at that, and we have to fund the organisations that are going to help assist us in making it that event. And I think it'll continue to thrive if that's at the centre of what we do.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Councillor Farrell.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Stephen and Jacqueline, for the report. When I read the report, the thing that jumped out at me initially was the fact that our bid for funding from Tourism NI was successful, and it was the only application across the entire north that got the full £100,000. So that's a real vote of confidence in the Halloween festival that this city and district delivers. You know, it's world renowned. Derry is the European capital of Halloween, and you know there's no other Halloween festival in these islands that compares in terms of quality, size, or scale. And I had a look at the programming for this year. I just think the names for the areas are quite imaginative. It's good that we're going to have activity on Shipky Shriek, because normally that was used just to get people from different areas. So it's good that there's going to be programming there. Disco at the Diamond, Pumpkin Street. You're just like, right, okay, well, we'll go up and see it. And then the Bones of Bishop Street. So really looking forward to the fireworks, as always, really looking forward to the parade, really looking forward to the installations and the variety of performers. So it is unique to this city, and it is the jewel in our crown of festivals and events. Everybody, young and old, looks forward to it. So really, really looking forward to it this year. And in terms of the additional budget for the Northwest Carnival Initiative, completely support that, because without the Northwest Carnival Initiative, Halloween wouldn't be the same, St. Patrick's Day Parade wouldn't be the same, Christmas lights switch on wouldn't be the same. So the things we look forward to all year, it wouldn't be the same unless Northwest Carnival Initiative was there to do it. So I think it's right, I think it's proper that they get the proper funding. So totally support that uplift. But I've got two questions. One is on the anniversary next year. Obviously, we'd want to see it, you know, bigger and better than ever. So would there be any external funding opportunities that we don't tap into on an annual basis? Given, you know, the anniversary that we're going to see next year, would there be any other opportunities? And the last time we discussed Halloween, and I think it was in this chamber, was about the walls, programming on the walls, the potential for tickets, which we rejected. But we have a lot of public realm work going on in the city. We've got it going along Magazine Street. Obviously, there are going to be restrictions there. So could you give us a flavour of what we're going to expect on the walls? There's reference to it on the paper that it could be used, you know, maybe not as a thoroughfare or people walking on the walls, but there'd be programming on sort of elevated stages. So could you let us know what's happening on the walls this year? Is there going to be activity up there? Because the walls are unique to this city, and you know it is an amazing bit of infrastructure that we have, and it's sort of synonymous with Halloween about people walking around. So is that something that we can facilitate this year, or is that something that we're not going to be entertaining? Thank you.
Chair, I'm happy to take the first bit, and then I'll ask Jacqueline maybe to give the detail on the walls. Obviously, in terms of additional funding, we're always looking for additional funding. I'm not aware of any opportunities off the top of my head that where we can apply for the 40th anniversary, but it's not to mean that there aren't ones out there. So we will continue to look for additional funding opportunities where we can. So we'll have a look at that, and maybe if we get some or other, we will bring that back to the members in terms of the paper. So happy to look at that. Jacqueline, you.
Hello. Just on the 40th anniversary, just if I take that, yes, as Stephen said, we'll look at additional funding. We have kind of behind the scenes are looking at plans already for it. And, you know, we potentially looking at world record attempts. We're looking at possible year-long murals that'll be up. Stuff like that. I mean, it's not confirmed yet, but to answer your question earlier, Ashley, if we're doing something like that, it could be that we do part of that this year in order to, you know, we're looking at accolades. It's been a while since we've won a big accolade for Halloween. So the idea is to get that this year so that we can capitalize on the media for next year in the build up to the 40th year. So that's, we're definitely talking about it. And hopefully next year we will definitely be able to utilize the walls in their full capacity and look at how we manage and operate that. This year the walls will prove very difficult for us. I have the timetable for the public realm works, and it's not just Magazine Street that is affected at that time, it's also Society Street, Palace Street. So all those, for the walls, as you know, have only accessible areas in a couple of points. So it's very, very limited in what we can do. So what we're looking at for this year as a temporary measure is to use the walls as a stage where we can. So where I came from earlier today was assessing all those, the call out that we did that closed on the 8th of May for animation. And there's some exciting things within that. Obviously, we're still scoring those at the moment. But what I will say is we were inundated with applications. We did a big engagement piece with the sector. Got them excited about the different themes, and they really went to town in terms of creativity. So we're looking at where we can dot things around now, and you know, but as you'll appreciate, Halloween takes a year to plan. We have to make decisions now. We can't wait to know exactly what road is going to be dug up or what, you know, so because of the massive crowds that we will expect. So at this stage, I can't tell you exactly what the walls, but I probably can tell you with the biggest confidence is we probably won't be able to get people on there, but the people will be on the streets and we'll have raised platforms. You know, one of the things that we're doing within the Diamond, and again, comments we would have got from the public and feedback, you know, the events are great, but, you know, children in buggies can't see things. So hence the raised platform areas. So part of the Diamond will have raised areas that will have performances. And we're again going to work closely with the Carnival Initiative, because again, something that maybe is underutilised is the parade participants. They only come out on the 31st. They don't necessarily be out the 3 days in advance. So we're going to look at, you know, maybe it's a platform for community-based performance. And so they'll get 2 goes at, you know, their rehearsals and all of that. So that's all for this year. So it is exciting, and but we have to plan now, and probably safe to say that we won't be able to get people on the walls, but there's elements that will showcase the walls in the best light.
Thank you. Alderman Cook.
Thanks, Chair, for letting me in, and thanks to Stephen and the team for the very detailed report. And on behalf of the DP, we also welcome the report. Halloween's a massive event that happens in our city, and one that a lot of our constituents attend and, more importantly, are involved in. The work and effort to make it happen bigger and better every year is second to none. The crowd control is a very important part. The crowds get bigger each year as well. So just to keep it moving smoothly, and for obvious health and safety reasons, you know, we need to get that right. And lastly, as a Waterside councillor, it would be rude of me to not push to see more events included throughout that week in the Waterside. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Cook. Alderman Hussey, did you want back on quickly?
Something just struck me there. It's also the 250th anniversary of American independence. Are we doing anything with regard to that? And indeed, could that theme be something that could be developed going forward? Because there may be funding opportunities via that particular avenue as well.
There's only one type of independence I like to be seen here. And it wouldn't be America. What are you joking?
An independent Ulster.
Like, sorry, what we're trying to do is bring Halloween back to its roots, which the America, I guess, probably claims Halloween in its development, but Halloween started in Ireland and in these isles. So that's something we haven't thought about for the independence, no. But no, we'll work, but we're trying to keep as much traditional as possible.
I appreciate that. Then I suppose the other side of it is, have we any plans for the 250th anniversary of independence? Given the contribution made by this city and this entire Northwest area to the fight for independence in the north of America.
Chair, I'm absolutely sure the museum service have stuff planned in terms of the collections and so on we have. I would have to double check and bring some of them back, but I'm happy to do that.
Councillor Harkin.
Yeah, look, I would welcome any discussion of the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution that gave inspiration to the great French Revolution and the great United Irish Revolution in this country. Exactly. Tom Paine. We could do a great meeting about him and about anyway. But we're off the subject here. But I just had an additional question about the collaboration with Donegal County Council. If Jacqueline or Stephen wanted to say a bit more on that, I think that's positive. But if we could find out a bit more about it, I think that would be obviously welcome. But it's also interesting that they are coming in behind to support the, Derry as the capital of Halloween celebrations.
Yeah, I can give you an update on that. We've been talking to Donegal for a while. Fáilte Ireland released a £3 million pot of funding for Halloween programming, and unfortunately we can't apply for it. So we had, and Donegal encouraged them to apply for it, but very much to tie in with us. So we're working very closely with the nighttime economy officer, and she's based in the Ishone area. So she has come up with, and we with her have a series of programmed activity. They will do activity in and around our event, but potentially there is more large-scale props, more choreographed pieces that will come to the city in advance of Halloween and Halloween day, night itself, and participate in our parades. So it's an indirect way of us getting some funding through Fáilte Ireland, but benefits both. So that is all. They are now at stage 2. Their application had to be in 2 weeks ago, and they imagine they'll find out in the next couple of weeks if they've been successful or not. And it would be a shame if they weren't, because they're the only area that's close to us that was in the running for it. So that's the lobby that we've made to Tourism Ireland and Tourism Northern Ireland and Fáilte Ireland.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. And finally, Councillor Neelis.
Just while we're on the conversation of festivals, it was really remiss of us to not talk about the Jazz Festival at the start of this committee meeting. So with your indulgence, Chair, I would just like to thank the council officers and congratulate them on their hard work this year for the Jazz Festival. It was a massive success as always. The weather always makes a big difference to it and helps. But the difference it makes to the economy and to tourism and to the status of our city and district is amazing. I was chatting to a colleague who had friends from Cork here at this Jazz Festival, and they were asked the question of how it compared to the Cork Jazz Festival. And they said it was definitely on a par with it. So congratulations for all the work that's been going on there.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis, and I think we all agree on that as well. The Jazz Festival was a great success this year and may longer continue to be so. Moving on from Halloween, we're all happy. Item 10 is the Open Street Food Festival, and Stephen's going to take us through that.
Thank you, Chair. So this is the update members on Street Food Festival we're proposing to do on the weekend of the Open. It's taking place in Portrush in July of this year. So members be aware the Open is taking place at Royal Portrush on the 14th to the 20th of July. As the closest city, we anticipate and have already been in contact, obviously, our hotels. We know that they're starting to get very busy and accommodation is getting hard to find. So the city will be busy that week. And so we've successfully secured funding in the previous year in 2019 to run a street food festival for the night time when people come back from the Gulf and somewhere for them to gravitate to and go. It was very successful and very well attended and allowed visitors to come back there and then kind of head off into the city as well, which is what we would want. So we applied again this year and would be successful for funding of £12,500 to deliver a street food festival for those, I think it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The event will take place Guildhall Square and Harbour Square as per the last time. Council officers are working on a model where we would tender it out and we would seek from the industry to deliver this on our behalf rather than us delivering it directly. So we need to approve or we need to go out and appoint a tender quotation exercise in line with our procurement procedures to appoint a successful contractor to deliver the £12,500 festival on our behalf. So what we're seeking today is members to note the contents of the report. So we accept the service level agreement from Tourism NI and the procurement exercise that will be carried out for a third party supplier to deliver the event. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Stephen. Alderman Middleton.
Thanks, Chair, for letting me in. Thank you, Stephen, for the report. The Open's a fantastic and nationally significant event which regionally will boost our economy in the near and far. I'm so glad to see us holding an event to link into the Open and to tap into the visitors who will no doubt be in the city and district. I know someone who works for a hotel chain, they're already fairly booked up with visitors specifically for this. I'll not mention the chain, but that's great news for us as a district locally. It will be so lovely to see a great food festival, hopefully showcasing local vendors, and I know that many local businesses have an appetite and an excitement for that. It'll be great for somewhere for our residents who maybe aren't going to the Open to go along to, and for those who are coming home in the evening from the Open to attend. So I'm really excited and really enthused to see this be brought into fruition. I was at Ebrington Square just not that long ago, maybe last week, when the Claret Jug was there. And I can tell you that from young and old, there was a huge level of excitement for golf, for such a big event, and for something coming to our region. So this is great. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Middleton, you're happy to propose that. I'll be a seconder for that item. Councillor Farrell. No more speakers on this, I don't think. No. Moving on, we are open for information. There's two items, item 11 and 12. Anybody want to come in on them? Barney, on which item? Item 12. Anybody on item 11? No. Go ahead, Barney.
Thanks, Chair. It's basically two recommendations that have come out of the Strabane bid. One is the street art and one is the music trail. After last year's summer jam, I was contacted by a number of people just, to see how we could improve and enhance the Summer Jam Festival. And we should always be striving for continuous improvement. And one of the ideas, two ideas that I brought forward to council officers, to Aileen and Jacqueline. One was a music event that would possibly participate in the streets during the day, and then at night would go into the pubs and bars, which would bring, because sometimes after all events during the day, people kind of disperse. So more people will stay in the town and go into the bars, and it'll generate some a good vibe as such. The second idea was the street art. And I had a number of meetings in relation to the street art with Strabane Bid and other stakeholders and council officers. So Jacqueline has been working on that very diligently, and that's kind of progressed quite well. And Strabane Bid did their own survey among businesses, and there seems to be a majority there that are very in favour of some street art. Maybe Jacqueline could give a slight update on that. Thank you.
No problem, Barney. Just in relation to the music event, which members will know, we're trying to model that on the Jazz Festival in terms of how we work. So to date, we have 11 pubs signed up to that, I think of which there's 13 in Strabane. So that's really good, and most of which have asked for at least 2 different acts on the evenings. So we're just trying to work through marrying the acts with the pubs. So that definitely will help lift Summer Jam Festival. And then on the street art, we, as you know, went to tender for that. So we just had to go back out for clarifications, and that closes tomorrow. So that we'll have an element of street art at Summer Jam, but the whole idea behind the street art is that it will launch a street art program that will be much longer than just what we do at Summer Jam. So that's right.
Thank you, Janet.
Alderman Hussey.
Well, thanks. Just a very brief one. Council recently put out a call for a bank of musicians and artists, etc. How successful has that been? By the way, I'll declare an interest because my son's band has put into it as well.
Do you want me to take that? Yeah. We had 39 bands that came back. So how we work it with the music trail is the list of those bands has been sent to the pubs, and they select which ones they want. That's how we do it with the festival. The pubs, as you remember, are making a contribution to the programme costs as well. So it has to work for them. And yeah, that they will have a better picture of that by the end of this week and what that's going to look like.
That's good to know. Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you. That's it on that. I was just saying the last 2 items were open for information. There's nobody else going to speak on them. We're just going to move on to confidential. Just